Hi, this is Vomiting Rainbows. This is our 57th episode. So today we'll be doing the crossover podcast with Love in Lockdown, and we have. Are you going by Farrah now?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, yeah.
Because Farrah and Cara just has such a good to it.
So
it rhymes.
She likes to weird out under a fake name.
Excellent, perfect. and Paul from the Doors is also joining us.
Oh, right. It has my real name there. Is that how they do it?
Yeah.
Well, they call me Blag the Ripper, rock legend. Just pretend my funny name is down there.
Yeah, your rock legend name is down there.
That's right.
And on this podcast, what we're going to do is COVID-related capers. So everything, since we're doing Love and Lockdown, we might as well do capers that are all related to lockdown. So I'm going to tell you guys 3 stories that you guys know nothing about, and then we're going to get your thoughts and reactions on them.
Great.
So
Excited.
So last week we did an episode where we talked about a guy who had carjacked someone, and when he had carjacked them, they found an ID on him, and they found somebody hidden in that person's house in the fridge. So it was very unfortunate. So I figured we would keep up with that same theme where a guy in New York, his mom had passed away in Hamilton Heights, New York. And it was related to a corona virus illness, or that's apparently how she died. When clearing out her things, he immediately went to the fridge, and the neighbors heard him scream so loud that they called the police. In the fridge, they found a decayed head wrapped in foil. And remember, this is his mom's apartment.
It's always better to wrap the head in foil rather than saran wrap. If you're going to be wrapping a head, go foil.
Right. And in the previous case that we had talked about, the guy was not wrapped. So obviously mothers do better.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, she knew what's up. Women are so much better at murdering.
Yeah, women are better at preserving and keeping all the evidence around. So they found the head, and then they found the rest of the body in a duct tape box fridge.
Okay.
So, and it was mummified.
Oh.
So of course, the neighbors say what they always say. She seemed like a lovely lady. She was very pleasant, and the landlord found it shocking that there was.
Wait, we don't have any other details. Are these female heads or male heads?
So that's where we'll get to next, which is first of all, the landlord said obviously that he was never allowed in the apartment to do any work that he needed, which is, I would say standard.
The craziest part was that there was a landlord who was actually willing to do some work in someone's apartment. I think that's the big story.
in New York.
Right. I mean, in New York, no less. Wow.
They cared to go into someone's apartment.
We're going to put your shower in your kitchen. How would you like that? Yay, right. New York.
And so the presumption right now that the police are going under is that the mummified body and head were her mom's. So the mom had been living with her for a while.
Oh shit. That is so twisted.
And so dark, unfortunately. And imagine
so
this.
Dark.
Imagine you're the son. Grandma. That's quite the reunion.
Maybe she just wanted to preserve her. Maybe she
on the mummification, I mean, I feel like this is a lost art. How mummified?
Well, I think she was just shoved in the freezer and couldn't quite fit her in the freezer, so maybe that's why the head was in the fridge.
Okay.
I don't know. It's very
embalmed in some ancient Egyptian.
No.
Doug, you are so dark. This is a dark story.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, this is mild for Doug. He gives me the sickest shit every time.
I've toned this one down because of our guest.
Here's what I'm fascinated by.
Right.
COVID seems like the perfect time to dump a fucking body. Nobody's looking, everybody's inside. Why would you hang on to the corpses?
She was sick. She was planning to. Then she got COVID herself, and her plans got derailed.
But she was holding on to it. It was mummified, so it had been there for 10 to 15 years.
Oh, okay.
So imagine this: every time her son visited, Grandma was in the fridge.
Oh,
that is so bad.
You love this story.
Was there long-standing enmity between the two? What was didn't anyone ever wonder what had happened to her in the intervening 10 to 15 years?
They haven't gone into any more detail than that. So obviously with Vomiting Rainbows, a lot of these stories we get at the time that it occurs. So this was last week. So this is not, there's not a lot of investigation that's gone on into this, but
wow.
I'm hoping that we'll get more information on this, which would be awesome.
We can tell.
Yeah.
I think she didn't murder her. I think she's a deranged person. Her mom died. Something happened.
And then she just wanted to keep her around.
And there's the rainbow.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like the Phil
Spector. The rainbow, perfect.
Maybe it's like the Phil Spector thing. Grandma showed up and committed suicide. Then they just had to stuff her into a refrigerator, right?
She had a bad matzo soup or something. I don't know. It just went south. Just put her right into the fridge. But then she duct taped around the fridge because I guess it wasn't doing a good job keeping the smell.
Biological mom or mother-in-law?
It just said grandmother
or stepmother. I mean,
Farrah seems some justification here.
Yeah, I think there could be
some details.
If it's a mother-in-law, I think they would have probably had more concern.
Yeah, it was
more looking for, but yeah. So we'll go on to another story in the Corona realm.
Ooh, okay.
And as we know, Donald Trump did a great job explaining Corona to us. And when he did, he called it the China virus. I know we're all familiar with his ranting and raving over the China virus. And somebody decided to act and help eliminate people who were bringing China virus to America, mostly Texas. So Jose Gomez, who is 19 years old, I'm not saying he's a Trump supporter, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a red hat somewhere in his wardrobe. He was at a Sam's Club in a big box store in Midland, Texas, when he approached an Asian family of 4 that was just there shopping, and he decided that he would stab them all.
Okay.
So he pulled out a knife and began stabbing the father and reached for, I think, the 6-year-old next. And there was also a 2-year-old. And he said that he was
Are we allowed to cry on this show? This is
of course,
horrible.
Cry away. That's the joy of this show. And so he said he was doing this to protect everyone in the store because they were obviously spreading Corona.
So I'm sorry, let me just interrupt you here.
Sure.
I always love it when there's stories like this. Like this kind of reminds me of Trayvon. You remember when that happened? And it was like the narrative always has to be like, you know, the horrible white racist. In this case, the guy's name is Gomez, you know? So like, is this being reported like sort of Latino on Asian hatred? Or because like with George Zimmerman, he was Latino, but it was always like, oh, this white guy, you know? Like I've noticed a very interesting way of reporting things.
Being a minority doesn't give you amnesty against doing hate crimes. You can
only in San Francisco. Only in San Francisco. It's okay here.
Unless, of course, you're like, it's obvious that this guy was impressionable, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so an off-duty border security officer thought there was a fight over like meat and paper or like high demand products. So he thought that they were wrestling over something and that was needed, like toilet paper. while he was trying to assess the situation, a Sam's employee jumps in, starts trying to grab the knife from the guy. He gets stabbed in the leg and cut on the arm, or cut on his hand, but got the knife away, and they subdued this guy.
Oh, wow, that guy's a hero.
Yeah, so that's his name is Zach Owens.
Doesn't make sense. The first officer who thought that, there's blood. Isn't there like blood all over the place? I mean, I've never been involved in a stabbing.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
So the first stab that happened, the guy is sitting there and they're talking to him. I will go on. I might repeat myself because it's in my notes, but they all survived. Nobody was killed or hurt in the family. I mean, they were hurt. The husband was stabbed in the face, like he had a gash on his face, but very thankfully was not severely hurt. But I would think that gash on the face, there would be blood everywhere. Yeah, I mean, you would not immediately be like, oh, okay, you guys are scuffling and there's blood everywhere. Oh, right. It's just toilet paper.
Well, fortunately, girls dig scars, so it might work for them.
Right when he said scar on the face, my immediate response was, "Ooh, sexy."
Yeah,
he is married and has a wife and 2 kids. I don't think he's looking for a sexy.
Even sexier.
How to spice up your love life. So that
2 points,
could be.
Farrah.
So the heroes the 2 heroes, the border security guard and Zach, the Sam's employee, did an interview with Bao E. Kung, who was the family member who was attacked and received the brunt of that
His last name is Ecom?
What?
Did you say his last name is Ecom?
No. His last name is Bao. His first name is Bao. His middle name is E, and then his last name is Kung.
Oh, okay.
So
Ecom would have been a cool.
Ecom.
I'm like, this is all just an ad. Yeah.
It's just an ad for Sam's. If you haven't been to Sam's in Midland,
Sam's
you can buy knives.
Why you buy online, folks?
Our staff will save you from stabbers.
Sam's was so happy and so impressed with their employee that they raised his pay by 12.5 cents an hour. So it's really a great day for him.
He wasn't allowed any time off, though. He had to come right back to work.
Yeah.
I get back and stack up that toilet paper, buddy.
Exactly. You're not doing this interview on company time.
Right.
So Jose was charged with a hate crime. He will be arraigned on $1 million bond. And they even reached out to the Trump administration, which is refusing to comment on it. Which
right.
is
Hey, there were good people on both sides.
There were good people on both sides of this. It was just a misunderstanding. And so any
Sorry, I just like
podcast,
Cara's face. We're just like
I'm trying to see the lesson. I think is to stay home. Is that's the lesson?
That's the moral of from everybody who listens to Vomiting Rainbows. The moral of our story is it's not safe out there.
Oh, really? To me, my immediate reaction is
stay home.
What weapon should I be packing?
Yeah, that's a good question, because a lot of times I feel like any weapon that you're packing is probably going to be used against you.
Yeah.
The answer is a bodyguard.
That's also a common theme between all of our stories as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's always somebody who has a gun in the house, and then somehow it's used against them.
I actually think about this often because I'm twisted and I watch a lot of like murder mysteries, and I'm super into like I'm waiting to either have to murder somebody or somebody's gonna murder me.
Right.
I have a note that just says he did it in my pocket at any moment. So people can
he did it, whoever
it is. But I have this huge fear of someone stabbing me because I feel like I get so freaked out by like flesh being punctured.
Yeah, I don't think
the idea of like stabbing to even save my life. If all I had was like a knife to save myself, I'd be like, oh, I'm fucked because I can't stab someone.
Well, because guns are a very impersonal kind of way. You can do it from a long way away. You can kind of pretend like it wasn't you. Knives are really like, you got to have a certain kind of fortitude to take a knife and shove it in somebody. You got to really be, you got to have a sense of self that is, dramatic. If you want to take a knife, and that's why, OJ gets a lot of shame, but you got to at least give him that. He didn't hide behind a gun. He got in there.
But that's the CTE.
I always thought of murder as murder, but my mind has just been blown.
Oh, really? Oh, there's levels to that shit. Because women like a slow burn. Women want to like poison you
over time.
Slowly die. Yeah.
Yeah, women are poisoners. That's almost always.
Wow.
That's the way to do it. I would go straight for the poison, undetectable.
Farrah would be
to the tigers.
Farrah, the movie would not be 28 days. She would be like, okay, I can cut my arm off to get out of here. I'm just gonna
I would never get caught. If I had to murder someone, it would be years of research, years of planning. Never. This video is going to be like used against me later in court.
Yeah.
Like,
right. What happens when Cara? What happens when Cara winds up dead?
Okay, so any of our podcasts probably wouldn't be complete without one Florida man story, because we always have to have a Florida man.
The Sunshine State.
The Sunshine State.
Florida.
And Richard McGuire, who is about 42 years old, decided that he wanted to quarantine himself in the most unique way. And where he wanted to quarantine himself, he decided, was on Bay Lake at Disney World. So on Bay Lake, there is a little thing called Discovery Island that was shut down in 1999. And McGuire built himself a little campsite on Bay Lake while Disney World was shut down. He was planning to spend about a week or two on the island, except for in his genius idea, he decided to build a campfire on the island, and people on the shore saw that there was a campfire on a deserted island that no one's supposed to be on. They tried to find McGuire and could not locate him for quite some time. They used helicopters, loudspeakers, boats, deputies on the island. I can only imagine this was like it's Tampa, right? So it would be like the Tampa police force or sheriff's department was just surrounding this island looking for him. And when he came out and they finally were like, we've been looking for you. And he said, I was asleep. So apparently he slept through all of this, had no idea.
What a lucky bastard.
Yeah.
I wish I could sleep like that.
Yeah. So he was, and I looked at this island and he came off the island and they said, why were you doing this? And he said, oh, it looks so beautiful from the shore. It's like a tropical little paradise. And when I got here, it was so wonderful that I just decided to stay. And they're like, you had to go around at least 10 no trespassing private property signs. And he's like, no, I didn't see any.
I actually want to get this guy on Love Under Lockdown. I think it's
Yes,
this is one of the better lockdown stories we've heard.
Something tells me
he's single.
Maybe he found love.
I wonder
maybe
if
there's
he's
a girl
single.
that got away.
Do you think he's single?
or there's
he
someone.
Sounds very resourceful.
He's very resourceful. Either that, or they're going to find a body on the island. This would be a great follow-up for us.
The best thing would have been if when he got to the island, there was a Japanese soldier from World War II that had stowed away there and was ready, still ready to fight. It was not over, He found his little spot.
Yeah, he found his spot. They're like dueling it out in the island. The police come on. They can't stop the battle. So on this island, there's still many of the original buildings. There's almost all the pamphlets. Everything's still there. It's like they literally shut down and walked away. There's people's schedules still on the wall. Their bags, their sacks are still there. People were just cool.
I'm surprised not more people are trying to quarantine there.
Well, there's a lot. So one of the big things is if you go on YouTube, and all of our listeners should absolutely do this, go down and look up Urban Exploring Discovery Island. And you will see many people have camped there for a couple of nights or a weekend and gone exploring during the day. So the way you get there is you go under cover of darkness and then you explore during the day. Maybe don't build a fire because that might alert everyone that you're there. But yeah, there's a lot of amazing things. There's like incubators. There's like all the cages are still there, and it has.
I'm too curious. What do you love about this story, Doug? What made you read this story and think this is going on Vomiting Rainbows?
Well, what made me think is we were having guests that maybe haven't done or listened to Vomiting Rainbows. So after a decapitated head in a fridge, or a guy stabbing a bunch of small children, I thought this was a nice way to end and round out.
Like it's a Disney piece. It's so
Disney.
cute.
No one gets hurt. No one gets killed. The guy is only going to get a trespassing charge, so it's nothing major.
I like that he was like Sleeping Beauty, just slept through it.
Yeah, just slept through it.
I think he wanted to quarantine with another girl.
I bet he did.
I bet this was his way. This was like during COVID.
Yeah, this was last week.
He protected the girl or guy, whatever you're into, genderless. This was all a way to date under coronavirus, because you can't bring someone over to your place.
Then we
got to her place.
And then he was like,
he's like, I know about,
And then he was like, hey, you stay here because they didn't find us. I'll go out and take the heat, and then you can take my little boat back.
How sexy is that?
Exactly. So he's like a savior all around.
Gentleman. Yeah, this guy.
You created your own Disney narrative for this.
Exactly. I see a movie coming out of this.
Yeah.
For sure.
An animated short, at least.
Yeah, I know a lot of girls, I shouldn't say that, a lot of women who would be into this guy.
He's great. So that's the end of our Vomiting Rainbows. Thank you guys for being on. Thanks for everyone for listening. We always appreciate your comments and ideas. You can contact us at contact@vomitingrainbows.com, or you can find us on all social media at We Vomit Rainbows. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, whatever. And of course, the number one thing you can do is rate us to help us grow.